Well, that was certainly something. I don't quite know what, but it was something. Rangers won, Celtic won. You know what? Honestly, I was fine with the draw. I was fine with it up until the end. Dyson, what you doing, son? What you doing? Hello, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It's time for our match reaction to I'm just going to say painful at times game to watch. It was a weird one. Celtic go to Ibrox, get a point, a few big injuries for Celtic. Still the far better team on paper, should be winning these games. We were down 1-0, we brought it back to 1 each in a performance that certainly didn't set the world alight, but I don't think it did for either side. I think, first of all, I'd like to apologise for any neutral who was watching the game today. It was a chore, I'd imagine. Probably turned it off by half time if you were a neutral. But it was, from open play, a terrible game. It had its moments, don't get me wrong. There was chances for both sides. You know, there would be the odd break of play where somebody would get a loose ball through the defenders, or somebody would play a ball over the top and it equal out to a chance. But generally speaking, from open play, it was a pretty terrible game. I thought in the first half in particular, it was really a game about dead ball situations. You know, Rangers had a goal disallowed from a dead ball situation. Rangers hit the bar from a dead ball situation. Cameron Carter-Vickers nearly scored from a dead ball situation. It was a really poor game from open play, I thought. But it evened out in the end. Celtic walk away with a point, which I think, all things considered, this afternoon is a fair enough result. I don't think we were substantially better than Rangers. I don't think Rangers were substantially better than us. I just feel like it was one of those days. You could tell that it was a derby game at the end of the season, where both teams in the league anyway don't really have anything to play for. Today's game was a contest of pride for either side. Either Rangers went on to win the game to leave the season with 3 derby wins and some optimism heading into next season with a takeover, or Celtic won the game, reminded exactly Rangers where they were in the pecking order and their place. But both teams looked as though they couldn't really be bothered for large portions of it, and I think that really was prevalent in the closing 20 minutes or so of the game. I thought from the 70th minute onward, it just died completely on its arse, and it got a bit excruciating to watch at times. But yeah, I don't think anybody will be leaving the game with major grumbles. Just the same sort of complaints I think we've seen in the last couple of derbies. It's all about moving on now and focusing on the last couple of games and then the Scottish Cup final. But Dyson could have won it at the end, man. Could have been 3 points for Celtic and a 90th minute winner to laugh at Ibrox, but he panicked. He didn't know what to do. He tried to be fancy, square it, shoot, do anything but that. And Celtic probably win the game this afternoon. But, you know, it's all swings and roundabouts. Rangers had chances that hit the bar, they could have scored. Celtic had chances at the end like that with Dyson, they could have scored. It could have been anybody's game. It finishes 1-1 in a pretty torrid game of football. Let's do this as we usually would. First half, then second half. That would make sense. Celtic started the game pretty poorly in the opening 5 or 10 minutes. I thought Rangers looked the more energetic of both sides. That made sense, all things considered. It was always going to happen at Ibrox. It was always going to be a case of Rangers being the team with a little more hunger at the beginning and looking to find the early goal. Celtic obviously weren't helped by the fact we were missing Alistair Johnston, Kuhn, Jota, missing a few big hitters. And Rangers took advantage of that. I think the first 5 or 10 minutes they looked the better side. But after that, after Celtic kind of weathered the initial storm that was in the game, I thought we managed the game really well. I thought we looked decent. Not anything spectacular, and we're certainly capable of a lot better. But in terms of just general game management, I thought that beyond the first 10 minutes, we probably were the better side, and we held off pretty well. Looked as though we were going to go into the break with a 0-0 scoreline, which would have been pretty decent, I think, considering the pessimism that surrounded the game today. And then bang, we go and concede right in the brink of half time, just through sheer stupidity. There are a couple of reasons as to why that goal comes about and how we end up going that 1-0 down. But up until that point, I thought we generally managed the game pretty well. The only thing was, there was a few people in that first half who were generally letting the side down. A few really stinking performances, I would say, in the first half, and 2 of them really prevalent in conceding that first goal. Adama in the first half today was indefensibly bad. Even for me, who has came on this very channel time after time to proclaim my love for him, to make videos specifically defending him, his performance today simply was far from good enough. And that all came to a head in the manner that we conceded the goal, because if it wasn't for his terrible finish, we'd have been 1-0 up. We should have been 1-0 up. But because his finish was that bad, Rangers then go up the park and find their goal, which we'll come to in a moment. But he was responsible for 2 key chances going begging today. That one that we've just spoke about towards the end of the first half when Rangers score, and also earlier in the game when he should be playing in James Forrest. He attempts to play in James Forrest, but does so with a pass that is inexcusably bad. That was the kind of summary of Adamida's first half performance. He looked lazy, he looked lethargic, his first touch was terrible. He was playing like he had bricks in his boots. Almost as if he was once again out in Wonderbar last night. And as I said at half time, it was indefensible, even for myself. I couldn't go out there and put my neck on the line for Adamida after that first half performance. And that's the type of performances which I understand get Celtic fans questioning whether or not he's good enough. I still maintain there's a player there, right? And I know that will be controversial after today's performance, but I can't continue to stick my neck in the line for him when he's dropping performances like that continuously against Rangers, because he's yet to really stand out. Now, we'll come on to his goal and we'll come on to him in the second half where I think he did improve, but for a £9 million striker you need more. And every time we play Rangers, it seems like he can't be arsed. I'm just going to call it how it is. It seems like he just doesn't want to be there. And that's what gets quite annoying, I think. Today was given a huge opportunity to start that game, and don't get me wrong, I don't think the service was necessarily great, but he was the one responsible for moments of service, like trying to play Forrest through or trying to get the ball out wide and do something with it, and he just wasn't. So it's all very well and good to say that the service might have been poor, but he was responsible for creating a lot of that service for the attacking players, and he just wasn't doing it. It was a really poor first half performance from Adamida. But he wasn't the only one that was responsible in the conceding of that first goal. Liam Scales, for me, that has to be the last time we see Liam Scales start a derby game ever at Celtic. And I've been saying this all year. The fact that we're still here talking about Scales starting derby games is wild in itself. I love the guy, right? And I have no problem with him being a Celtic player, no problem with him being called upon when we need him. But we have 11 million quid worth of centre half sitting on that bench, and I am so sorry. I don't care who has to hear this, and you can try and argue with me in the comments section all you like. Liam Scales is not a better player than Austin Trusty. And I understand why Scales started today, because form dictates over the last few weeks that Scales deserves to be in there. He's been good the last few games, and he's been playing over Trusty. It was a no-brainer that Scales was going to start today, but that shouldn't be happening. And Brendan Rodgers is the manager making the decisions. In these games, in these big games, Liam Scales is not good enough. His level is abundantly clear. And he was really weak, piss poor in the defending of that goal. I think that any other centre-half does a better job in defending that first goal. Ida sticks us in a bad situation with a miss in the first place, but we certainly don't do a good job enough defensively to make up for it. And Scales is the main culprit for that, I'm afraid. I just, time and time again, find myself watching Scales in these derby games, in these big games, scratching my head, wondering how he's there. And I try my best not to sound over the top or condescending. I don't want to single him out and target him, but he is a weak link. It's as simple as that. And I thought his performance was one of those ones in the first half today that was a reason for us being a little bit tentative in certain aspects of our game. Playing the ball out, just general defense. Just watch him. Isolate Liam Scales' movement in defending situations when the opposition are encroaching on the final third. He looks lost at times, and I just think he's out his depth when he's playing in games of this magnitude. There was other performances in the first half which I felt were just not good enough. I didn't think Greg Taylor was great. I think that he was struggling. He was very negative. Every pass he seemed to play was backwards, and that was frustrating. Obviously, we spoke about Ida. Maida just seemed sort of non-existent, and I don't know if he was being managed in a certain way so that he could play the 90 minutes. He didn't seem as intense as he usually would, especially when he's on that left-hand side up against James Tavernier, which we all take the piss out of all the time. Or Tavernier's petrified of him. Tavernier didn't really have any reason to be petrified of him in the first half today because it just seemed like it wasn't the game. So I don't know if that was just the way we were trying to manage it. But there was just a few performances in the first half that I thought let us down. Ida and Scales being the ones that come to mind. I thought there was good efforts out there. I thought the midfield looked a lot better than it has in the last couple of derby games. I thought in the first half, Forrest looked lively, looked really wanted to make things happen. I thought Ralston actually had a decent game in the first half. But generally, managed the game well enough. Didn't end the half ideally. I'm just glad that we managed to get a grip of ourselves in the second to bring things back. Start of the second half was a lot better, and right up until about the 70th minute, I thought Celtic were in proper control of the game. We obviously find an equaliser. Adama does a great job to score the goal. Pulls back a wee bit of support in his favour with that goal, but it doesn't. I don't think it excuses him from his overall performance. He was a lot better in the second half, but the standards were that low. It didn't take much. But it's a great finish. Don't get me wrong. I know it takes a wee bit of a knock on the way there, a wee bit of help on the way in, but it's a great finish. The way he turns and gets a hit on it with the accuracy of getting it on target. 'Cause it's not an own goal. It was on target in the first place, so it goes down as Ida's goal. I thought we worked well to get that goal. And I just thought, as I said, between the 45th and 70th minute, I just think we looked a lot better, a lot more comfortable. We were dictating the pace of the game. Other players that maybe didn't look as comfortable in the first half started coming to life. But then I thought there was a noticeable drop-off, and I think that fatigue really showed through today for Celtic. From that 70th minute onward, it looked as though we didn't really want to push for a winner. And Celtic looked quite stagnant in a lot of what they were doing. And I don't think that was through any ill efforts. I just think fatigue was what took over. I think you could see Ralston looked visibly knackered over at right back after putting in a pretty solid shift for, I thought, the first 60 minutes or so. I think that you could see the midfield was starting to slow down, hence why Engels was coming off. I think you could see that Hatate maybe was a little bit slower. Already said Maida was looking as though he was trying to manage his way through the game. Forrest looked done in. And I just thought that fatigue really started to take over for Celtic from that 70th minute onwards. And I think that deep down, as maybe controversial as this is, I think they were maybe happy to just take the point. But we stopped pushing, and I'm really disappointed about that because I thought, as I said, right up until that 70th minute, I was like, we can win this. We're all over them. We'll get there in the end. And we just sort of gave up on ourselves, I think. Rangers, obviously, at home, needing that pride, needing that win, started to pick things up a wee bit and did put the pressure on Celtic. We dealt with it really, really well. But it was just disappointing to see our levels sort of drop off in the last 20 minutes or so. But at this point in the season, it doesn't surprise me. The fact that they are obviously making sure that they can get themselves over the line to this Scottish Cup final without losing any more players, it makes sense. Unjustifiable to drop points in derby games, but I'm not stunned at the way the game ended up petering out. I think that Celtic were just happy to really walk away with a point at that moment. I think the culmination of all of that comes with that chance that should win the game for Celtic. Dies in Maida at the end, and it'll be a what could have been moment. I'm not going to linger on it for long. Listen, here, we're in a Scottish Cup final. We could win a treble. We have beat Rangers in the most important games this season. The first derby, the Cup final derby. Yeah, it'll be annoying that this season it ended with 2 Celtic wins, 2 Rangers wins. We want to win all 4, or we want to win all 5, you know. And that is annoying, but I'm not going to look back in this in a year's time and go, oh God, what if Dyson scored? What if he passed it? Because at the end of the day, it didn't fucking matter. But it is frustrating. And I think, as I said, I think that fatigue and that tiredness really came to a head and showed in that moment when Maida was through on goal. And I think that it's not just like physical fatigue. I think that there's an element of mental fatigue in there as well. And he just doesn't think and what to do. It was signs of the Maida that was so frustrating when he first arrived, or even last season, that would make poor decisions in moments. He tries to take it round Butland. He shouldn't be doing that. He should be shooting after his long touch, or he should be squaring the ball, and Celtic win the game this afternoon. But as I said, I'm not going to sit here and make that the narrative of today's game, because I don't think that either side done enough to say that they should explicitly have won that game. So I'm not going to take it to the grave. I'm not going to cry about it. I wish that we went to win. I wish that we did win. but sometimes we'll take the point and we'll think about the good times yet to come. I think it's hopefully a game that will act as a reminder to the Celtic board that there is much needed quality to be added. There was an uninspiring amount of quality on that bench today, which really made it hard for Celtic to challenge in the late stages of the game, and that's not helped by our injuries, and manager can't do anything about that, the board can't do anything about that. Injuries happen, but it is a reminder that we need quality, that there's some players in there that are just, I think they've served their time at Celtic, and that they're maybe just not the quality we need for games like this. It was a game of moments, but it's one of those ones, and credit to Ben the Tim for saying this, because it's exactly what I thought is the final whistle when I said to my dad, in a few years' time we'll see highlights of it and we'll go, that game happened. And we won't care. And that is generally how I leave that game thinking today. But we need to act on the improvements we need. I think if I have to take any silver lining from the cloud that has been the mixed bag of derby results this season, is that I hope that it acts as a catalyst for Brendan Rodgers next year to go out there in every derby and put them in their place. And I know people will go, well, that should have been the case for the last 2 derbies. We should have put them in their place after the January defeat. And you're right, you're bang on. But with the improvement that we should make to this team, to the freshness that is very clearly needed, and that Brendan Rodgers has said is very clearly needed, I'm hoping that it acts as the catalyst for us to go out, get the job done, and batter them next year across all the derbies. And we can just take this season for the potential treble that it is, and yeah, go on and do what we do next year, business as usual. Right, what a pointless match reaction, what a terrible game. I'll see you tomorrow, and hopefully we've just forgot about this game by the time I'm next on the channel. Right, see you next time.